What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of HVH. That is Heck versus Hell, where the truth we tell. That's right. I had to throw a little curveball in there. I know some of you were reciting it. I recite it too, actually, whenever I listen to the edits. I go and I'm like, I mouth it. I mouth what I'm saying because I know already how the intro is going to go. But throw a little curveball in there. Welcome and welcome back to all you lovely, beautiful souls, wherever it is that you are listening to this on. Of course, we have well established that I am not good at going down the list of names for which we are syndicated on. Okay, so I'm not even going to try, but welcome and welcome back to this episode. If you haven't already, go check out the previous episodes because, as you can tell from this one, we are in hierarchy children. So this is part four. Well, basically part five because there was a little 1.5 I want to say for man. I can't remember. It was either man or woman. I think it was man. But regardless, go check out those previous episodes. This is a little mini series that we got going on, and I guess this would be the concluding one of that mini series, which I know, we all hate for it to end. Um, but let's finish it out and let's finish it out strong, even though it may be a little shorter than a couple of the other ones. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simplified to go through, and it's very crucial that we understand these foundations, especially in today's society. So, regardless of what age range you are at, this is great information to know because, as getting right into it, as we all very much understand, children are the future of what we are created to do and what is carrying on the bloodline, right? And it's very important too that we understand the hierarchy because without a hierarchy in place, there wouldn't be a continuation of mankind. And I'll say that very bluntly too. There's no reproduction with same sex marriages. Okay, as blunt as I could put it, there is no reproduction. So I very much understand that a lot of people have their own desires. However, we are not made to fulfill our own desires, right? We are made just like trees aren't made for their own well being and their own selfish intentions and ambitions. The same way they go and they produce oxygen for us and the animals to breathe. They produce fruits so that we may eat of them. They produce lumber so that we can go and basically create all these things. So, in the same way, we are created for external factors, selfless, because that's ultimately what a huge portion of love is external creation. So whenever we go and chase solely our desires that are in this world, I might add, because we can have good desires, right? Of course we can. The desire to see our children strive, the desires to crave God, and the desire to be in the kingdom of heaven, godly desires that He has told us that we should aim for. There are worldly desires. Okay, so in that same way, no, same sex marriage does not cause reproduction. Of course, we have all different types of science modifications to where we can go and inseminate a woman without needing a man, adoption, all these different routes, which is great. I'm not gonna knock that off for anybody that is in one of those situations where they're actually going and putting themselves in one of those situations. But I will say that there has been many situations as well, especially in different types of homosexual relationships that do adopt, where they are actually one of the most common to abuse their foster children or their adopted children. And as cruel as that may sound, it just fully goes to show how much of demonic desires those truly are. Okay, that's as controversial as we're gonna get right now, but I mean, look at it like that. It doesn't matter if it's two women, if it's two men. Regardless, they have the overpowering to be able to do so. So, number one, we need to understand that children are the most vulnerable and precious thing. Okay, for a man, it's like his jewels. For a woman, well, I guess women are made in a sense biologically to already be vulnerable, but we'll use that analogy. I can't think of an analogy right now for a woman, but for a man, it's like his jewels. Okay, and the hierarchy is not only to train them and cultivate them, should I say, the proper foundations to live a good life, to where they can actually find happiness, to where they can actually find and conquer their purpose, but it's also so we can be the stepping stone for these children. And I say stepping stone as well because there's many times, so many times, especially in one of the most difficult situations, I'll say personally, to perceive, where I've seen a great prophet that went and didn't live to their fullest potential to accomplish and touch as many people as they were meant to touch, to fully fulfill their talents and purpose and gifts, to where it had to be passed down onto their offspring so that they could finish the mission that was not accomplished from them. Now, of course, we can also see that many times differently in the Bible as well. Even whenever we go to Exodus, right? We can go to Exodus, and all those people that were taken out of Egypt, they did not accomplish the purpose and the mission that they were taken out of Egypt for. They were literally roaming in the wilderness, in the desert, for 40 years when it's not that long of a trip. Okay, it's not that long of a trip from Egypt to Israel. It does not take 40 years. They were placed there so that they can transform and elevate to where they were meant to be, so that they can accomplish the purpose of which they were taken out of Egypt to begin with. So, in the same sense, if we do not accomplish the purpose that we were created to do, which of course we have so much free will to do so, we have so much free will into, yes, we can live our lives selfishly because we have that capability. What's the word I'm looking for? That allowance, I guess you could say, to be able to do that. However, of course, we do have a predestined, quote unquote, uh, journey in which God created us for, the greatness that is within us. Now, that's why a lot of the times we've also heard and said, I believe I heard it from Miles Monroe, that he said that the graveyard is the richest place on earth because so many people die with the greatness that was instilled inside of them. So it's gone and taken with them. So we have to understand that we are made to cultivate people to succumb us, to over supersede us. That is what a part of our purpose is, especially as parents. Because this next generation, they're supposed to be better than us. In the same way, how you see so many movies of where the master goes and becomes superseded from the child, it's the same way by the prodigy, by the student, whatever it may be. It's the same thing that we are made to do. That is one of our responsibilities as a parent. And it's very difficult too because unfortunately a lot of us don't know how to properly raise children, and we try to be so, some people try to be so lenient, some people try to do it their own way. There's so many different ways of doing it, even when it comes to how to approach a child whenever they're at a baby stage, to right the cry it out method, to coddle them all the way. I've seen it so many different times, and unfortunately I've seen it very closely also to where it can go completely the opposite lane. I had one of my nephews, I'm not gonna name too many names, but one of my nephews, he actually goes and he's kind of neglected. I'm gonna be honest, he's kind of neglected, and unfortunately, he just began kind of doing his own thing, being in his own world. He really doesn't pay attention to nobody. Even if he hears you calling his name, he doesn't pay attention to you. Mind you, this kid is 3 years old. And one of the things that he ended up learning and acquiring from that lack of acknowledgement and love was the point of how much it was of a difference that his sister, got that acknowledgement and love. So through that, he was able to kind of in his childish mind comprehend, okay, well, to get exactly what I need to be this certain type of way. So what he started doing was he started wearing dresses, he started wearing little girly things and different things like that. He doesn't know what he's doing, but in his head, he's like, well, I'm getting what I need through doing this because obviously they're going to acknowledge it in the ignorance that they have in their mindset, his mama, right? In the ignorance that she has of thinking, oh, that's so cute. He's wearing a dress, ha ha ha. And she's confusing him because now he's over here thinking, well, now is that the way I'm supposed to go? Or is that the only way I can get what I need? He doesn't know what to think, and that's one of the most dangerous things is that confusion and that lack of foundation that you can't instill in your children. So we have to be very, very mindful about so many little things. It's literally a full responsibility. It could be a full time job. So much respect to all the mothers out here that have raised children because it really is a full time job because you have to be super mindful, super aware, and super conscious to what you're actually doing. And it kind of sucks because a lot of the trauma we haven't yet healed from, we end up passing that trauma down, and that's exactly what people call generational curses. These generational curses are then instilled into your children, whether that be a point of passing down the foundations and shackles of the slavery mindset, and it's still a trauma to be had. Hey, recently we were in slavery, we were in bondage, and we barely got freed. We endured all this racism and all this discrimination and being treated as less than human. It's passed down in a sense to where it can either be the same trauma of fear, right, and you cause that division, or in the sense of hate. So you're angry with it, right? But it's still a point of trauma. And that's why I said, too, in the last episode, I believe it was, that trauma causes us to sin. Because only through that trauma is that it does develop our character in a sense, but it's not who we truly are. It's not a portion of our spirit being, right? That's something in the soul. That's a taint in the soul, a scar, a scratch, whatever it may be. Same way, whenever you go and you have a huge, let's say, for example, you have a huge cut on your leg, right? And you just leave it open. You just leave it open. You don't want to heal from it because you're so angry, you're so upset, you're so sad, whatever it may be, whatever emotion you're feeling, you want to stay in that emotion. There's many people that just don't realize it. Some people that don't want to acknowledge it, some people that just like living in it. Regardless of fact, you let it continue to bleed. So if anyone even gets close to looking in that direction, and I don't know about y'all, I actually had I had a cast a long time ago. I want to say when I was like 13, and I remember it. My foot was in so much pain, but even whenever I was over here on crutches and having that cast on, it's I remember my siblings, they would kind of mess with me, and they would go and start putting their finger close to it because they understood the type of pain that I was in. And through doing that, they would just get closer and closer, and even though they were inches away with their finger right there next to my foot, I could feel that pain. I could feel it like you anticipate it. So our mind is so much stronger than what we understand it to be. And it's the same way with trauma. We go, and if anyone gets even remotely close to that topic of conversation, it becomes an issue. And it doesn't even have to be just that topic of conversation. If you're bleeding out, you bet your butt that you're over here kind of seeing things through that lens, whether it be anger, you got stabbed in the back, whether it be anger or whatever else emotion it may be, you're gonna have those glasses on to see everything as a point to, hey, well, this kind of correlates to my scar. This could be a situation. So even in situations that aren't even fully like that, it still causes a point of you bringing that up because that trauma is surfacing, because your mind relates it in a sense to that trauma. So it's very dangerous for us to pass that down, because not only will it be difficult, more difficult for them to heal from it, especially if it gets really deeply rooted in their core, just because they never actually went through the experience to begin with. So it can be a lot more difficult to break those type of chains, to break that type of trauma. It also creates confusion. And that's what's kind of there's different things I've seen, a bunch of memes, a bunch of different things. People always make jokes about how, oh, well, this generation is stronger than this one. Oh, I remember us. We used to go and we used to get beat with all types of things, X, Y, Z. Oh, I remember we used to go and whatever. And they would almost brag about the hardiness of their way of growing up, right? Generation wise, because there's even a division, should I say, within the generations that you're born into. So in the same way, they're over here going and putting those divisions, excuse me, they're putting up those divisions, and you're basically bragging about trauma. So a big portion and a big issue why the newer generation is even the way they are is exactly because of that, because you never healed from it, even to the point where you're bragging. So it's it's a whole mishap, it's a whole cycle, and it's very dangerous for us to truly pass that on. It is. Now I understand there's so many situations where we get to the point where we're already parents, maybe way before we wanted to be. Maybe it happened because God wanted to put us in this situation so that we can mature, but it's a point of becoming conscious of what you are truly doing. Because I mean, there's some people that just go and allow the internet to raise them, and that was one of the issues that my nephew had too, is he was watching that through these things as well. He was even seeing it in movies and correlating it as well with what he was experiencing in the human flesh, of seeing, okay, well, same way, this is a princess, right? Watching all these princess movies, watching all these little TikToks at 3 years old, like, come on now. But he was doing all that, and he correlated it in the same way. Oh, well, they're getting dresses and they're getting this type of love and affection that I so crave and desire. It's the same way. It's very dangerous, especially that, to allow different technologies that we can't supervise to raise our children. And it's something that I just really, I do despise it, but I also find it kind of sad, because a lot of people don't realize what they're doing. A lot of people don't understand that they are setting their children up for failure by doing that. Not only by giving them a certain type of very limited attention deficit disorder, to the point where they understand, hey, well, everything's so short video, they give them a temper just by doing that. And it becomes a downward spiral, because in one hand, they're like, okay, well, let me go and give my child this tablet or my phone so that they won't be bugging me too much, right? So I could take their attention off. But ultimately, that's going and it's giving them really short attention because of all these games and apps, and they understand, hey, we got to keep your attention so that we can make money. So it becomes a downward spiral, and ultimately it brings your child really down. And I've seen that too. I've seen videos. I wish I could find it, but there is a video that I saw too of people going and beginning to kind of refrain from doing that. They redact that type of information, even if it's starting little, even if it's going from just car rides, right? Just car rides, no more devices in the cars. Everything is always going to be a journey, and that's the blessing about it, is we can always go and fix something to an extent. But it's also very vital that we go and pay attention to what we're doing in the first place, because we are teaching children so many different things. Not only that, but once, like we said about the matrimony, we have to ensure that the mom and the dad have a very strong connection and foundation, because if there is a division, not only does that go and teach, send off a bad image to your child to have a lack of representation to who they can look up to, because they're like, well, they got so many issues. Well, they're kind of, they're kind of human. And that's not to say, hey, completely shield your children from all types of happiness. Don't allow them to see anything, shield them from the world. No, nothing like that. But there needs to be a unity in the relationship, in the matrimony, so that they can see that respect level, so they won't see you as a division. That's a huge issue that parents have as well, is going and having that division, whether it be like, okay, well, I you know what, mom told me no, dad told me yes, I'm gonna go with dad because he's the one that's kind of telling me yes. He's the one that wants tells me what I want to hear. And ultimately, it could cause an argument between them. So it also teaches them manipulation. So that's why it's very important to go through the structure of what God ordained it to be, so that we can understand to keep that kingdom intact and properly let go of the next generation, because only then can they be and have a running head start to accomplishing what they need to accomplish. Now, of course, I will say I personally am very grateful for everything that I've gone through, no matter how bad. But I mean, why not go and try to do the best we can as parents? Because that's exactly what God wants us to be. He wants us to be reflections of Him. So we must go and reflect God as much as we can. And God, being our parent, He knows what's best. He knows what to give us. He knows, and He wants to do everything He can to allow our lives to be better, to put us and set us up for those right situations and positions in our life. And that's the beauty of it. Is it's a moment in time that we must be very grateful for, because one thing that one of my aunts always said was, children are borrowed. And it's such a beautiful and simple saying, literally 3 words: children are borrowed. Yet it's so deep and profound to understand that we have to enjoy those moments as with children, no matter how messy they are, no matter how rambunctious they are, no matter how much they get on your nerves. I very much understand it, even from my own nieces and nephews, and that's even not my children. So imagine, having my own children for a 24-hour period. But it's still a beauty. We have to see that beauty in the rain. We have to go and enjoy those moments with these children that are going to be the replacement of the greatness that we may have not accomplished. Okay, so that's a legacy. That's a bloodline. That's a beauty of the creation that God ordained it to be so. Right? And that's what's so great about the hierarchy that God has created to be. And I think that's a great way to end off the episode, is understanding that even if we fail. Now, I'm not encouraging just give up, fall, take a knee, never get back up. I'm not encouraging any of that. I'm saying if for some reason we don't live up to the greatness that we were placed on this earth to do, we can stand firm in knowing that we did everything we can to properly give the keys to the next generation. And that right there is the beauty of the rain. Okay, I had to say that. I had to say that one time. If you know, you know. That's gonna be one of the books that I'm coming out with right now. But it's it's just beautiful. It's really such a beautiful structure that God has made, and we just have to acknowledge it, because if He knows how to perfectly put us not an inch closer and not an inch further away from the sun, if He knows every single part of our created being, even to the blood vessels, the complexity of our DNA, the laminin that holds us all together, the water and the balance of every single piece of the human body, it's incredibly beautiful. So we have to see it as a whole for the beauty of the creation that God made to be. And we are made in His image, so why not acknowledge and glorify that creation, being ourselves? Right? Not to say, hey, put yourself above God. Hey, it's a point of acknowledgement, and that's no better way that I could end off this little mini series with. But I really hope that you gain some sort of information from this. Hey, even if you don't have children yet, or if you are a child listening to this, listen to your parents. Okay, they may not be the best, but they're doing the best they can, and have that understanding that they've had their own problems too, and they are human. If you are living in a very rough situation, but understand that if our parents aren't there, we have someone that can always and has always been there to ultimately accomplish that. But even parents are gifts to us as well. So I love each and every one of you. I hope this impacted you in some sort of way. I can't wait to possibly go and foster and adopt myself as well. Not just my own biological children, but do that as well, to help as many as we can, because that's ultimately one of the greatest responsibilities that we even have the ability to do. So I love you all. Stay blessed. Hope you have a great weekend, and we will catch you on the flip side.